Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Ian Mann, and I'm joined on the panel today by Ms. Diane Knight and Mr. Stuart McPherson. The Assessment Department personnel today is Ms. Svetlana Shabel, and the administrative personnel is Ms. Phoebe Graywood. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rule in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all of the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private to make its decisions. You will receive that decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 and 2 on our docket today. Ms. Graywood, would you please affirm the assessors and both applicants' testimonies?
Shabel, please state your full name.
Svetlana Shabel.
Do you affirm the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And Mr. Van Bruggen, please state your full name.
Thank you very much, Wesley Van Bruggen.
Do you affirm the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, thank you.
Please state your full name.
Carson Horsborough.
Do you affirm the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. You see it.
Thank you. Then we will turn to number 1 on the docket today. That is the street address of 1216 Grant Avenue here in the city of Winnipeg. I see that it is a 2024 assessment, the reference date being April 1st, 2021. Ms. Shabel, I know as well as a preliminary matter that there were three items being contested, that being classification and liability, but I understand those are being withdrawn. Is that correct, Mr. Van Bruggen or Mr. Borson?
Yes, that's correct. We're going to withdraw classification and liability for 2024 and 2025.
Thank you very much. Then we will focus on the sole remaining issue, and that being the overall valuation. Ms. Shabel, would you please introduce the property and provide your evidence?
Thank you. File number 255-40. Roll number is 120-140-72100. We did assess 2024 with reference day April 1st, 2021 at 3,537,000. The subject property is auto service related. It's located on land area 37,783 square feet with plan area, gross floor area, leasable area 5,005 square feet. On page number 2, I provide air photo and street view of subject property. We have convenience store and gas station. Plus we have car wash. On page number 4, I look into permits posted for this property. You can see that my permit started from 2002 by 2024. And also we can see a demolition and construction of happened in 2023, why this supplementary tax was produced. On page number 5, you can see specific permits. Construction new gas service store on page number 5 from 2023. A co-op redevelopment of an existing gas station site. Scope of work to include new fuel pump, new canopy, new car wash, landscaping, alteration to parking lot, approaches. And all this permit was for 6.5 million. If you look on page number 4, it's construction new in 2023. So size to on page number 6, I showed previous photo in 2021 and current from Google. On page number 7, income expenses mailer started income market income. First, we assess car wash 2,675 square feet at $11.86. That give us potential rent on $31,726. For car wash across the city, we apply vacancy loss 2%, expenses for not recoverable expenses 3%, shortfall for occupation of vacant space $6 per square foot, give us net operating income 29,837. Overall capitalization rate for car wash model generated 6.55%. Gives us valuation capitalized value of 455,527, rounded 456,000. On page number 8, I have provided kiosk and gas pump evaluation. We assess 2,330 square feet at $47.78. That gives us potential rent of $111,327. For all kiosk and gas pump are across the city. We did apply vacancy loss 2% to be persistent. Expenses for not recoverable 3% in shortfall. For occupation of empty space $6 per square foot. Give us net operating income 105,547. Overall capitalization rate 5.05% for brand new kiosk and pump. Give us capitalized value of 2,090,040. We did apply additional value of 991,000. On same page 8 on bottom page, we can see subject property detached structure details. We use replacement cost new of subject fuel equipment, Iceland shelf, tank, dispenser, pump, piping. We're estimated using the City of Winnipeg Property Assessment Department in-house computer costing system that is based on the provincial cost manual. The cost represented bundle of associated components such as pump and piping. So you can see the tank, the first line is tank, give us 92,000. Fuel pump 191,000. Another tank of 13,206 gallons give us 48,000. Another tank of 26,417 gallons give us 92,000. A fuel pump electrical, it's 8 in quantity, give us 520,000. In another tank, 13,209 gallons give us 48,000. Altogether, 991,000 added to store and pump valuation. A summary presented on page number 9. So for 5,005 square feet, we did applied overall $28.58. Potential rent 143,053. We applied a vacancy loss 2%. Expenses 3% and recoverable, not recoverable $6 per square foot. This is together net operating income 135,384. Overall capitalization rate for property 5.32% because it's brand new property. So give us capital value of 2,545,567. We did add pumping equipment 991,000. Give us estimate value of 3,537,000. On same page, I posted information provided for us that this site lease from Sankar Energy Inc. They use pay 135,000, size 2018. On page 10-11, capitalization rate table, our municipal assessment tax exception. And on page 12, income expense mailer provided for us. On page 12 through 16. We have 16, 17, and 19. On page 20, it's our rent comparables. You can see gas station, car wash, pad sites rent comparables. Our first rent comparables, 690 Sterling clients. They have car wash and pump station. They pay annual pad site 105,000. Store 2,250 square feet. Car wash 1,375 square feet. Lease started in 2013. If is our estimated rent for gas station $40.25, car wash $10.50. Our second comparable 1484 Inster, it's just gas bar. They rent for $188.57 per square foot. Another Shell Canada on 40 Islands Shore. They rent 540 square feet at $19.74. Another Doma Gasoline gas station and pump on 1690 Ness. They rent for $116.71. Comparable number 5, 2071 Caridon has gas station, gas pump, and car wash. So gas station and store rent for $65.94, car wash for $10.50. Comparable number 6, 705 Osborne. We have a gas station with gas pump. Rent for $29.91. Its rent started in 2014, 10 years before reference date. Comparable number 71180 Nairn. We have a gas station with gas pump, a lease from 2014 for $53.57 per square foot. Another gas pump and gas station, and 1626 Ness, rent size 2008 and $92.59. Superstore gas bar on 5084 region, rent for $151 per square foot. On Safeway gas bar, 1616 Kenaston, rent $1,550.27. Comparable number 11, 1017 Henderson, co-op, like subject property, rent for $137.06. Another co-op on 3076 region, we have gas station, gas pump, and car wash. Gas station rent for $42.92, in car wash $10.50. Comparable number 13, 7061 Pembina. We have true blue car wash only for $7.71. We have another car wash in 3061 McPhillips, North Gate car wash for $14.31. In our case, we did apply for car wash $11.86 for 2021 reference date, and for gas station $47.78. That very well supported by my comparables on following pages. Say my comparables with air photos and tenants rent roll supported all numbers in my previous table. We can see 690 sterling light bar, how we did estimate this number, 1488 Eastern, and keep going. On page number 1, Suncor. If you look on second page after Suncor, where we have subject property, 1216 Grant. Its second line showed this area 50,219 square feet of land, rent for $535,000. It's followed by assessment exception supplementary notes in appeal. Based on evidence presented in my brief, the 2024 assessed value of $3,537,000 very well supported and should be confirmed. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Shavel. Now, I'm not sure who wishes to go first, Mr. Van Bruggen or Mr. Hornsberg. I will let you sort that out yourselves between you two.
Mr. Horsberg will go first, and if there's any follow questions, I'll back clean up here.
Great, thank you. Then, Mr. Hornsberg, would you, any questions?
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just a couple of questions for the assessor. I just wanted to start, Ms. Shavel, early on in your presentation, you can correct me if I'm wrong, did you state that this is a brand new property?
Yes, because you can see on page number we have a demolition happened in 2022, a construction of brand new redeveloped existing gas station. It's Okay, it's redevelopment of existing gas stations, scope of work to include new fuel pump, new canopy, new car wash, landscaping, alteration to parking lot approaches. Original test site was size 2004, but completely reconstruction in 2023 for 6.5 million, and we ask only 3.5 million. It's fair.
Okay, so I guess just to follow up, so are you now aware that this isn't actually a brand new building?
Redeveloped gas station and brand new car wash, fuel pump, canopy.
Okay, so maybe I can just clear this up a little bit for the sake of the panel to understand what happened to this property. So I inspected the property back in, would have been, I suppose January or February. So no, this isn't a brand new property. Petro-Canada originally had their site.
Mr. Hornsberg, I'm sorry, I'm just going to interrupt for a minute. This is your opportunity to ask Ms. Schabel questions. You will certainly have an opportunity to provide your own evidence. It sounds like you're going into that area now. So if you can please question Ms. Schabel on what her understanding is of the property as existed or as it as of the reference date and what has taken place, what her understanding is, and then you will have an opportunity to provide your evidence as to what your inspection showed. Fair enough?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Ms. Schabel, have you inspected the property?
Although I have not inspected, I can describe accurate from our records.
Sorry, so have you inspected the property?
Although I have not inspected property, I able accurate described property from our records.
Okay, thank you. So now just moving on. Okay, so moving on to page 9 of your disclosure. I guess I've got a couple of questions. I'll start with the shortfall rate. Can you explain how the shortfall rate was calculated at $6 a square foot? Because if we were to calculate the taxes owing based on this assessment, the taxes alone would be about $18 a square foot. So I'm just wondering if you can provide some insight into how the shortfall rate of $6 a square foot was calculated.
Shortfall usually apply for vacant space that not occupied, that paid by owner. Our shortfall and statistical crunch data from income expenses mailer provided for us. If property owner occupies, they usually clear explain what expenses they put on property, how we came across the $6 per square foot.
And with regard to I'll go off the blended cap rate on page 9, 5.32%. Is there any objective market support for that cap rate located anywhere in this disclosure?
I have a cap rate table on page number 10, or because it's a standalone gas pump and car wash, it's belong to office buildings. Our office suburban between 5.6 to 6.9% for 60% of the properties.
Okay, so just based off of your own data here, 20th percentile, if we want to say 6.35, 80th percentile, 6.95, Colliers, 6 to 6.75, CBRE, 6.25 to 7%, Cushman Wakefield, 5.75 to 6.5%. How does the city support the capitalization rate of 5.32% when all the third-party reports and the city report itself doesn't support that low of a cap rate?
Our table on page number 10, we provide only suburban A and B to be consistent with information provided by with real estate market reports from Colliers International, Canada, CBRE National, and Cushman & Wakefield. But in our case, our statistical data for all type of property across the city by using income expenses mailer provided to us. It's not part of this table, but it's how model generate this cap rate for similar properties.
Okay, so is there any evidence somewhere in this disclosure that provides support for that cap rate at 5.32%?
It's not part of this table, but it's model generated. It's statistical proof data.
Okay, is there any market evidence located in the disclosure that would support the 5.32%?
This model generated cap rate estimated by similar sold properties.
Okay, and those sales, are they, what page will I find those?
It's not part of my evidence. It's model generated, not size specific.
Okay, thank you. That's it for my questions. I'll move to Wesley.
Thank you, Mr. Van Bergen. Questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just a couple questions. First, just to confirm, the valuation date we're discussing today is April 1st, 2021. Is that correct?
Correct. Market evidence. Correct.
And then when we take a look, if the board will flip with me to page 5, you would agree that the issue date on this building permit is we'd have 7/27/2023. So that would be July 27th, 2023. Is that correct?
Correct. But we under assessment physical condition of property of January 1st, 2024.
Right, but if we're taking a look at the information that would be provided from this building permit, you would agree that this is over 2 years after that valuation date. Is that correct?
It's not post-reference. It's evidence of physical condition of the property.
Right.
And January 1st, 2024.
Right, physically what the property is there, but more so what I'm referring to is the value on the building permit, which you had referred to. I just want to confirm the value on the building permit that you referred to, that would have happened solidly over 2 years after that valuation date. Is that correct? The physical characteristics.
I would like to repeat myself. It's not market evidence. It's evidence of physical condition of the property.
Okay.
January 1st, 2024.
Okay.
Market evidence from 2021 presented on page 20 of my brief. We're looking for market evidence for rent comparables for subject property estimation, valuation.
All right. If we could turn to page 2 of your submission, please. The picture on page 2 of the Petro-Canada, is that what the building looked like as of the physical characteristic date, 2024?
Correct.
That's what the building looked like as of the January 1st, 2024?
Correct.
Are you sure that's what it looked like?
Because it's a search from Google.
Right, but you had said the property had been changed. So again, as Mr. Horsborough had asked, have you been to the property since at any point in time in 2024?
If you're going on page number 6, in 2021, you can see photos.
Page 6.
Mm-hmm.
Give me 1 second.
Well, Ms. Schabel, the question wasn't anything to do with overhead photos. It was whether you had been to the property.
Correct. I on page number 6, I showed difference what was happened before and what physical condition today.
Right.
What he asked you.
But that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking the picture that you have on page 2. I'm asking, is that what the property looked like as of January 1st, 2024, the valuation date? And you said yes. And then I asked, have you been to the property? And then you pointed me to page 6. So have you been to the property in 2024?
It's a view from
The
Google.
question, Ms. Schabel,
I say I didn't inspect property myself, by my colleague did.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So to confirm, the picture on the bottom of page 2 and the 2 pictures on the top of page 3 We do not know when those pictures are. Is that correct? We do not know when they were taken, or did you take them yourself?
This picture from Google View.
Okay, what was the date when you looked on Google View? Because Google has dates. What were the dates when you pulled these?
Current dates. I will
Okay,
check.
so on the bottom if you go to the bottom of page 3, we see that there's a co-op gas station. If we take a look on the top of that page, obviously those pictures are different. So why am I looking? So again, are these pictures on the top of page 3, are they as of the physical characteristic date? And when was this picture on the bottom of page 3 taken?
Ms. Shable, are you able to answer that
I'm
question?
looking right now.
Okay, thank you.
Oldest picture from June 2021.
So the pictures that you have on the top 2 pages are from 2021. Is that correct? From on page.
Yes, I'm like right now look on Google View and they showed no. My photos also from May 2023.
From May 2023.
Yeah, it depends which angle I'm looking into. So I use both 21 and 23.
Okay, but we don't have anything from 24.
And not in my brief.
Okay, all right. Thank you. If we can, just a quick question for you, actually, if we can turn to page 19. Just more of a clarification question. And just let me know when you're there.
Mhm.
Are you there?
Mhm. I'm here.
Okay, so here it says the information is to be used to either prepare an assessment or determine if a property is accessible. It is not to be used for any other purpose, including supporting an assessment. That was put on by the owner as they submitted it. Any thoughts on why this information is here, where we're looking at it today in support of an assessment?
Because this property under appeal, it's part of evidence.
Right, but
it-
it was pretty clear that the owner had asked for not to be used in support of an assessment. It sounded like they wanted to be used just in preparation of an assessment.
Yes, but it's part of assessment, and I show where number came from. This type of information used by our model to come across all data what we have in our evaluation. It's very crucial information for us. This information presented only when property under appeal. Other part, we hide this information. It's property of owner.
Okay. If we can turn to flip to page 20, please. And just let me know when you're there.
Ms. Shable, are you on page 20?
Yes,
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
All right, thank you. So just a couple questions. So for the first lease, we have 690 Sterling Lion. You've indicated that there's 2,250 square feet within this the convenience store component, and then 1,375 square feet in the car wash. But if you'll turn with me to page 21, and just let me know when you're there. When I look at the rentable square foot, I see one. I don't see any areas here. So where do these areas? So can you tell me where in your submission package that these areas came from?
if you see on my comparable number 1, it's annual pad site rent like subject property for 105,000 square feet.
Right, but I'm asking for the area. So you have, because you're
Area
looking.
because it's part of our record. They have a gas pump and store for 2,250 square feet and car wash 1,375 square feet. It's estimated rent.
Where do I find that? Because on page 21, I just see 1 square foot. I don't see anything to support the rental rate that you have of $40.25. So where do I find where do I find those areas within your submission? What page?
It's a part of our record. If you look on page number 22, it's full estimation how we did it. And let's go through exercise. On everyone with me on page 22. 690 Sterling Parkway, algebraic equation. We have per site rent equal square footage of store on area plus square footage of car wash area. We need to solve what is square footage of car wash or a store. Known that pad size rent 105,000. We know that area of store 2,250 square feet. And also we know that the area of car wash in our record 1,375 square feet. In general, the in-use 2017 rental rate for stand-alone car wash in gas station with on-site car wash are as follow. Our rent for car wash assessor between $8 to 30 cents. Average car wash $10.50. Agent provide in 2017 $7.50, $10 per square foot. For average $8.75. We said car wash to assessors average at $10.50 in solve for pad site rent equal. We have equation, so we have 2,250 square feet of car wash, $10.50 square dollar for car wash for 1,375 square feet. Give us estimated car wash $10.27 per square foot.
Ms. Shable, the question was actually, where did you get the square footage? Not the calculations. Where did the square footage come from?
From our record.
So there's no information within your submission that shows that area. Is that correct?
It's part of our record.
But again, there's in our submission,
It's actual building on our comparables, what we use in this estimation. This estimation showed how we came across fill-in table on page number 20. It's algebraic equation.
Right, and I understand that, but what I'm asking is, in the 44-page submission that you have before the board today, what page number do I find the areas to support your rental calculation? So on page 20, you have a calculation that you have 2,250 square feet and 1,375 square feet. Where do I find those areas in your 44-page submission?
I'm under oath and I proves and I can say that this number, this square footage in our up-to-date records from Assessment Taxation Department. It's not negotiable, it's a record.
Okay, so if we look, maybe I'll make this simple. If we look on page 21, can we turn to page 21?
Yes,
Can you confirm that the rentable square foot is at 1 square foot? 1.
it's showed us that this land rent for 105,000. On page 22, I showed how we estimate what rent for store, what rent for car wash. All this algebraic equation on page 22, it's provided for each my comparables, how we came across these rent comparables.
So to confirm, it's a pad site. So again, if we, because let's, you know what, let's flip to, maybe let's make it, let's flip to page 24. Let's look at another example. On page 24. Can you confirm the leased area is 0?
Yes, it's a pad site.
Okay, page 25. Can you confirm there is no square footage for the Domo?
Yes, that's why I'm really explain on my first comparables how we did estimation. It's something similar. If you open page of my brief, number 9, subject property, it's also a land lease for 135,000, size 2018. Like subject property, pad lease, it's what happened with gas pump.
Okay, so if it's a pad lease, does the size of the building, is a pad lease based on the size of the building, or is it for the site?
For your information and land lease.
Okay, so when we're taking a look at your comparables and you're supporting a rent per square foot on page 20, if that's not how they're looked at, why are we looking at a rent per square foot? Because I'm looking at rent per square foot. If I'm taking a look at the total lease, I'm at 100. I see leases ranging from 100. What are we? The low of about 100 or 39,000, all the way up to 115,000, 115,000. And then we have areas, and then we have a square foot per percent or a square foot per square rent per square foot. So how much support or how believable, how much weight can we put on a rent per square foot when we know that it's not built based on the building size?
If you look on page number 20, all my comparables, site rent comparables, land sale comparables, but our record have clear information, what size of store, what size of car wash. On page 22, I explain what type of algebraic equation we use to estimate this rent. Same information used by our system to come across rent generated. So my algebraic it showed how I can present this information. But all this pad lease we try to transfer to estimated car wash or store. If you look on my comparables 13-14, we have clean pad lease for 7061 Pembina and 3061 McPhillips. But we know that they have car wash of 6,480 square feet on this side. So estimated net rent for car wash, $7.72, since 2015. Same for 3061 Pembina, McPhillips. We have a car wash of 3,360 square feet. We estimate $14.51 since 2007.
All right, Mr. Chair, I think that concludes my questions. Unless Mr. Horsburgh has anything follow up, but I think I'm good.
Well, thank you. Ms. Knight, have you any questions?
I'm so lost right now. No.
Okay, Mr. McPherson.
I just have a couple of questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Shable, what is the effective date of this assessment? Is it right from January 1, 2024?
It's effective physical January 1st, 2024. It's physical condition of property.
No, I'm sorry. What I'm asking is, when did this get put onto the roll? It's a supplementary assessment. Was it for the entire year? Or
Yes,
was it,
correct.
it was right from January 1?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. So it was done by Section 14.2 of the Municipal Assessment Act?
Correct. On page number 3, it's a supplementary notice. We issue it on January 17, 2015 for 2024. Correct.
Okay, I thank you. And page 9, all your comparables, these are all pad leases, correct?
Correct.
So in the case of the subject property, it's a pad lease. Do the improvements revert to the owner at the end of the lease? Do you know?
I know that all detached structure or pumping equipment belong to the land, belong to the owner. But tenants rent he rent store, car wash, and maintain this piping. Provide service for this pump station.
So the pad lease of 135,000, that's not just for the site, that's for the improvements as well. It was the owner that developed the property and then is leasing it back to the tenant. Is that correct?
We can see on page number 5, owner Grand Park Venture Inc., who issued this permit. He asked for permit construction new gas service store and car wash.
Okay.
You can see type of work, construction new gas service store, and description. We explain that it's not just a new gas station service store, also new pumping, new canopy, new car wash, landscaping.
Right.
And tenants Red River Co-op Inc. on same page 5. So everything belongs to Grand Park Venture Inn, but rent by Red River Co-op.
Thank you. So on your page 1, you've got actual years built, 2004 and 2024, and effective years of 2020, 2024. Does that indicate that there are some older development on this property as well?
It was old gas station, but it was a full redevelopment and adding extra car wash.
The car wash, it was added new and the others were just redeveloped. Is that correct?
Redeveloped existing gas station site.
Okay, so if I look at your, I'm not sure what page that was on, but the valuation that you've given us a breakdown. Sorry, let me get to it. Page 8. I'm sorry, we're still on page 8. You've got 0 depreciation on all the underground tanks. Are all the underground tanks new or were some of them existing?
It's completely new. If you look on same permit, I posted here, include new fuel pump, new canopy, new car wash, landscape and alteration. So it's brand new.
The underground tanks are new as well?
Correct. Every 15 years they have to be replaced.
Those are my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, I do have one further question.
Sure, please.
On your page 5, it says it on the tenant is Red River Co-op, but on your pictures on page 3, you show the co-op gas bar, but or co-op car wash, but you show Petro-Canada gas bar. So who owns this place? Is it co-op or is it Petro-Canada?
It's like I explained when I took this Google View photo, it's from 2021 and 2023. That's why it's made confusion.
So this Petro-Can is gone?
It's right now Red River Co-op.
So this picture of Petro-Can has nothing to do with this. It's really just a co-op now.
Yes, correct. Sorry.
That's
Yes.
why I was getting confused all along, because I'm looking at this going, what the heck?
Because it's 2023, it's no actual new picture in Google View yet.
Yeah, I see that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shabel. I have some questions about your capitalization rate, and I'm looking at the chart on page 10. Now, this, the assigned capitalization rate you indicated is from the suburban office category?
Correct, because it's a stand-alone gas pump and car wash. That's
Okay.
why it belongs to the office. We showed 60% of the properties, but
No,
rest,
I understand all that. We don't have to go into that again. There's certainly a retail component to this, is there not?
it was retail, not anymore, it's standalone.
Now, just because it's standalone, it's been classified as office. Is that
Correct.
what your evidence is?
Yes.
Okay. And in the comparable sales that you referred to that aren't part of your brief but form part of the model, how many gas stations would form part of that? Do you know that, or is that something that you're not aware of?
All gas stations across the city analyzed by our computer system, our statistical data. I presented only 14 comparables.
Right, none of those are sales, though.
It's not at the pad site rent comparables. It's
I know, sales. We're talking sales, not pad site rental.
it's not presented here. It's not part of my evidence.
Good. Okay,
That's
thank you.
why
That's what I wanted to know.
But
Now, the standalone buildings, going back to standalone buildings now. So if it was a standalone building, say a 7-Eleven or another convenience store without gas pumps, would that be assessed as well as an office, or would that be retail?
Yes, it will be assessed like office because it's standalone, but we will be not added additional building value or detached structural details. So we will be not added any pumping system in this evaluation.
Now, the additional building value, the amount or the values that you have presented are from the Marshall and Swift tables, are they not?
Yes, correct. It's
Okay.
a system. It's also used by provincial cost manual.
Yes, that wasn't my question, but thank you. The replacement cost new less depreciation shows what is exactly what it says. That is from Marshall and Swift, and it shows what the replacement cost new would be if these had to be dug up and replaced, for example, with the tanks. That's the general idea of the RC replacement cost new less depreciation?
Correct.
Okay. Now, the replacement cost new less depreciation, so these are being assessed as they had just been, there is no depreciation, right?
Correct. Brand new.
Okay. So in following years, there would be depreciation, presumably, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have anything further. Mr. Van Bruggen or Mr. Horsberg, who will be making the presentation?
I will, Mr. Chair.
Okay, then your evidence, please.
Okay, well, maybe even before I start going through the pages, I'll maybe just describe this property a little bit because I think there is a little bit of confusion. The assessor has described the property as though it's brand new. We've kind of gotten into that a little bit. So what happened with this property, it was a Petro-Canada. There's a photo in the assessor's brief of the Petro-Canada. And then it was redeveloped. So not everything was torn out. The gas pumps are new, the tanks are new, the canopy's new, and the car wash is new. The store itself, that has been assessed as an office apparently, the retail site, that convenience store, that part of it was refurbished essentially. It was torn out and refurbished. So we didn't have the entirety of the site bulldozed and brand new everything. We have new tanks, new pumps, new canopy, new car wash, but the existing convenience store that was there with Petro-Canada, that's still there. It's just been rebranded, refurbished, and now it's a co-op. So I hope that maybe will clear up that issue. I expected the site would have been back in February. I've included some photos in my report, but we'll get to that now. So 1216 grant, this is the 2024 supplementary notice with an effective date of assessment being April 1st, 2021. So if the board will follow me onto page 3 of the disclosure, we have a 2,330 square foot convenience store and the car wash that takes up 2,675 square feet. The assessed value is $3,537,000. MNP has valued the property and we've determined a market value of $2,626,000. So if the board will follow me now to page 4, this is the assessment breakdown of the property. And on page 5, we have MNP's valuation of the property. So as we saw in the assessor's disclosure, the property is leased for, as of the effective date, property is leased for $135,000. That is the potential income we've used on page 5 to appraise the property. With the lease in place, the property isn't capable of generating $143,000. If anyone was going to purchase the property, they would purchase it with the lease in place. The property isn't capable of making more than what they're contractually obligated to collect and rent. So that's how we came up with the $135,000. Standard 2% vacancy deduction. Same expense as what was used in the assessment. Net operating income then comes to $127,730 with a capitalization rate of 6.25%. We arrive at a capitalized value of $2,043,680. And then we've also costed the tanks and the pumps as well, $582,000. That's how we arrive at $2,626,000. I will speak to this valuation in detail in the following pages. So on page 6, I've provided 2 aerial photographs. So this first aerial photograph, we can see that's actually the old Petro-Canada. So we can see that the canopy is different, but the actual convenience store has remained the same in size, but new car wash as well. So I hope that it's actually kind of a good visual to have here so you can see the original and then the new while it was just finishing construction. Moving on to page 7, I've included a photograph from my site inspection. So this is the co-op now that we can see. I thought maybe I included some more photos, but I probably didn't just for the sake of keeping the file size a reasonable size. I guess that's the one photo I have for my inspection. But now if we move on to page 8, I've got a bit of a discussion as to the rental rate. So the property was assessed using a blended rental rate of $28.58 per square foot. The lease in place for the subject property as of April 1st, 2021 was $135,000 per year. On a square foot basis, that amounts to $26.97 per square foot. I've included an excerpt directly from the lease, showing that that's what they were paying right up until December 31st, 2022. I also found some comparable leases. Of course, I believe that if you're going to look at market evidence, the most comparable lease out there is the lease that's for the subject property. So that's why I've included that there. I did find one other lease that I felt was comparable. I don't know if I've spoken to the location of the property, but the gas station here, the co-op, it's right by Grant Park Mall. So what gas station would be probably most comparable? Well, a gas station that's right by another mall. So I was able to actually find the lease for the, I believe it's the Petro Canada, right by St. Vital Mall on St. Mary's Road. So I've included that lease here on the table. Similar size. The lease started January 1st, 2021, $26.82 a square foot. So ultimately, our request is that the property be assessed with the rent that's in place. They're contractually obligated, that's the rent that's being paid. They're not able to go out and find $40 a square foot. The rent that they're paying is the rent that the property should be assessed with. The issue of the lease in place versus market parameters, this has been discussed in the courts in the past. Ultimately, the courts have always ruled that, well, if a property has a contractual obligation, well, that is more important than, you know, all these different market parameters. You know, it's like if you were assessed by the CRA and it's tax season. So it's like if you were assessed with taxable income of $1 million, we said, well, I didn't earn anything near that, right? You dispute it. They're being assessed with income that's far higher than what they're contractually able to collect. And this is an issue that's been dealt with in the past. Our opinion is that anyone who's going to appraise this property, any potential purchaser of the property, is going to look at the leased fee interest, and they're going to see, okay, they're paying $135,000 a year. That is what you base the appraisal on. That's their income. Now, secondly, I want to speak to the capitalization rate. So we'll move on to page 9. Let's have a sip of my coffee. So page 9, the capitalization rate. So in appraisal theory, there are a few different ways to determine an appropriate capitalization rate. Direct market observation is one way. You find sales of comparable properties. In this case, you would find sales of gas stations. As of the effective date, April 1st, 2021, I wasn't able to find any gas station sales. So I wasn't able to derive a capitalization rate directly from sales of gas stations. Second way to determine a capitalization rate is what we call the mortgage equity approach. So with this approach, you look at what a risk-free rate of return is, what the bond rate is, you determine what a reasonable rate of return is, and from there you're able to extrapolate a capitalization rate. It's not an approach that we put a lot of weight on. We ultimately determined our capitalization rate based on other sources, third-party market reports. That was ultimately the best way for us to come up with the capitalization rate. If you move on to page 10, I speak a little bit more about the mortgage equity approach. However, I won't go into it in detail. Ultimately, we didn't use that as our source for determining the capitalization rate, which is why if we move on to page 11, I've included some capitalization rates that were reported by third parties. In this first table on page 11, we have the first quarter of 2018 and the first quarter of 2021, Colliers and the Cushman & Wakefield capitalization reports for Winnipeg for retail properties. And this isn't just any retail property, this is for the regional mall / power center. So Grant Park Mall, Polo Park Mall, Santal Mall. They're looking at the capitalization rates for retail properties, specifically malls and regional power centers. So we can see that between 2018 and 2021, according to Colliers, the capitalization rates remained relatively the same, whereas Cushman & Wakefield, they saw that capitalization rates increased. And then below we have the Colliers cap rate report and the excerpt from the Cushman & Wakefield cap rate report. So now we move on to page 12. There's another thing you have to factor in here. So we're not just looking at your typical retail property. We're not looking at a strip mall that an investor can purchase and say once the leases run out, you can tear it all down and redevelop however you'd like. That's not the case with a gas station. So if we were to look at a strip mall located there, it wouldn't be too difficult to choose a cap rate because, you know, if you're buying that type of an asset, you have flexibility. You can redevelop, you can do what you like with it. With gas stations, you aren't buying your typical retail property. Anyone who's in the market looking to purchase any sort of a commercial property, when they're looking at a gas station, they also have to account for risk. So gas stations are specialized use properties, and because of environmental regulations and whatnot, you're really stuck with these assets because you're dealing with petroleum products. And you're going to deal eventually with contamination when you want to go to redevelop the site. So there's such a risk with a gas station when you compare it to any other substitute in the market. You're not purchasing any contamination. But when you purchase a gas station, you're also purchasing the environmental liability that comes with it, and you have to account for that risk. What do investors want when they are going to take on risk? Well, they want a higher reward, high risk, high reward. So for a gas station property, if you're going to take that kind of a risk, you're going to need a premium. Hence the higher cap rate than what you would get for, say, a strip mall or a small multi-tenant retail property. Gas stations have the inherent environmental risk that comes with the use of the property. So how do you look at a problem like this, where you have gas stations that come with this environmental liability? If we move on to page 13, 14, pages 13 and 14 here, I did a bit of research. I looked at, okay, if I were an investor in the market looking at acquiring a gas station, what's happened in the past? So I can tell you what's happened in the past on these two case studies. So here on page 13, we have 425 Osborne Street. So if any of you have driven down this stretch of Osborne at any time in the last 2 decades, you've seen this empty site. Great location. You'd have a hard time finding a better location for any sort of development. And yet for 2 decades, this site has sat vacant. Why is it sat vacant? Well, it used to be a gas station. And about 20 years ago, it was torn down. End of the business cycle. I'm not sure exactly why they tore it down. They weren't able to make a go of it, but they tore it down. And now it's sat here for 20 years, no development on it. No one's touched it, no one's bought it, no one's built anything on it. Why? Well, because the land is contaminated. And the cost to remediate this land is exorbitant. So no investor wants to touch it because they're going to have to A, take on the environmental risk, and B, have to pay to remediate this land. So here's an example of an investor who bought a gas station, and here's where they are 20 years later. So let's move on to the next one. 302 Archibald. Again, we have another former gas station site that's sitting vacant. Same situation. So if we move on to page 16, I provided a bit of a summary as to how we've arrived at our capitalization rate of 6.25%. Gas stations aren't your typical retail property. They're specialized use. If you were to look at attracting a new tenant, you know, who can think of a new entrant to the market of petroleum products? This isn't a market where, you know, you've got tenants entering the market all the time. You've got a few possible tenants, and the list isn't growing, it's shrinking. All the Huskies were just bought up by the co-ops. You know, you have a market here for gas stations where the number of participants, the number of potential tenants, that list is shrinking. So those tenants have greater bargaining power when it comes to leasing properties because there's fewer of them. So that's one issue why you need a higher cap rate on a property like this, why you want, as an investor, a higher return. Of course, the second one, as I spoke to in detail, the environmental contamination, the long-term site impairments. You aren't purchasing a property that when the lease is up in 20 years, you can tear down and redevelop. You're buying a property where when the lease is up in 20 years, either you're finding a new tenant, or if you're going to redevelop, it's going to be extremely costly. So in light of these considerations, it's our opinion that the 6.25% cap rate, that falls in line with third parties and makes the most sense for our gas station property. Now there's another issue that we need to address. So we'll move on to page 17. The cost value. So this assessment includes an adjustment of $991,000. I provided the cost breakdown that we saw in the assessment report. I believe the assessor said that it's Marshall and Swift cost breakdown. Now the city of Winnipeg isn't the only people who have access to Marshall and Swift. I use Marshall and Swift too. And so actually I was able to calculate these costs too using Marshall and Swift. And when I first saw the city breakdown, their cost breakdown, well, I thought it was quite high at $991,000. So I did my due diligence and I had my own report done from Marshall and Swift. So on page 17, we have the city's breakdown, and on page 17 below here, we have the Marshall and Swift breakdown that I was able to get with the same parameters as the city. But I didn't just request this information, go online and fill out the system. I went a step further. I reached out to Marshall and Swift and I asked them for help. I asked, can you get someone to show me how to do this? And if we go into the addenda, I've actually included my email chain with the gentleman from Marshall and Swift. If you go and check on page 28 in the addenda, I've actually included the excerpt of the email with Marshall and Swift where they told me how to do this. So I looked at that 991,000. I thought, yeah, that seems quite high. And sure enough, it was quite high. And with the help of the actual staff at Marshall and Swift, I was able to determine a value of 582,000. So now if we move on to page 18, I guess I'll just summarize the potential income, 135,000. That's what the lease is for. Capitalization rate of 6.25%. Well, we've looked at third-party reports and we've accounted for the risk. And then under adjustments, 582,000. Well, that's for the underground equipment as per Marshall and Swift. And with that, I respectfully ask the board to revise this assessment to $2,626,000. And with that, I would welcome any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Horsburgh. Mr. Van Bruggen, any questions? Oh, sorry, do you have anything to add before we go to questions?
No, Mr. Chair, the one thing I just want to highlight, just very quickly, Carson did a wonderful job, is if we could just flip to page 26, just for the board's reference.
Okay.
Here we have the Marshall Swift costing estimate report, which we provided. You can also see the cost as of the date. So we have the cost as of the evaluation date, as of April 2021. You can see cost as of date there. Just for the board's reference there, as we're taking a look at this cost information, and getting a sense of where these numbers came from. Anyway, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Shable, questions?
Yes, please. Let's open page 8 of agent brief. You did provide information about actual rent for subject property, 1216 Grant Avenue. We can see that it lease for 145,000. Would you agree that in 2018, when lease was negotiation, it was only a store 2,330 square feet, only without car wash, correct?
No, that's not correct. They've paid 135,000 for the site.
For the site, but a car wash was built in 2023, correct?
I believe that when it was a Petro-Canada, they had a car wash as well.
But car wash right now stands alone. Okay, but in 2018, all car wash in store was only 2,330 square feet, correct?
Sorry, I'm not following.
Okay, you provide lease for 135,000 square feet for 2,330 square feet of improvements on the site, correct?
They're releasing the whole site. So they had, the old Petro-Canada, you had, just like the new one, you have the car wash, you have the canopy, pumps, underground tanks, you have the convenience store. That's what they released in $135,000. Does that make sense?
Yes, if we divide 135,000 by 2,330 square feet and give us estimate rent $57.93. Would you agree?
Do I agree that 135,000 divided by 2,330 equals 50 odd something?
Existing improvements on the site, it gives us around $58 per square foot. Estimated rent. Agree? Would you agree?
I would agree that for the site, they were paying $135,000 as of the effective date.
Yes, but we try to estimate what rent for improvements. And improvements only 2,330 square feet.
So they were renting all of the improvements. They've got all of it.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
$58 per square foot. How you came across $26.97?
Oh, so you're asking about the 26. I'm sorry, Ms. Shable, I'm not following your.
Okay. You provide lease 135,000 per year. Site improvements only 2,330 square feet. If you divide annual rent income by square footage, it gives us $58 per square foot lease. How you came across $26 only?
Oh, okay. So that 26, that also includes the car wash as well.
But car wash 2,330 square feet site, it's a store and car wash together.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put a whole lot of. I don't think we need to get caught up on or tripped up on the per square foot. I mean, I think we've established they're paying $135,000. That's the annual lease.
But this lease for old improvements, for physical condition of subject property is brand new improvements. Would you agree that new improvements with in 2022 will be negotiate new lease?
As far as I'm aware, I am aware that yes, they did negotiate a new lease, and we'll speak to that in the 2025 disclosure.
Okay. You didn't provide any evidence of market rent for car wash and store with pump.
Yeah, so the way we valued it, the way any potential purchaser, or the way the market would value a property like this, like no one's coming in and saying, well, we'd be willing to pay, this amount for the car wash, but we're not interested in the convenience store. Like no one's gonna come into the market and purchase a property by cutting out this and that. The way an asset like this is valued is based as one asset. No one in the market, no appraiser would look at this and say, okay, well, I need to come up with a market rent for the car wash and then come up with a different market rent for the convenience store portion. That doesn't reflect market thinking. That's not the way the market works. Like as you saw in your evidence, you're looking at the rent for each pad site. No one in the market is going to look at an asset like this and then try to come up with a rent for the car wash, or rent for the gas station. This asset would be valued as one. So no, I haven't tried to come up with a different rental rate for the gas station, different rental rate for the car wash. I've came up with one rental rate for the whole property as one.
On your page 15, you provide information to Archibald. And in your information, it's empty space. Do you know that it's a new auto dealership on top of this property today?
I know that as of April 1st, 2021, this property was vacant. I know that as of April 1st, 2023, this property was vacant. I am aware that at some point this spring, I think they've broken ground on a new development there. But as of both of the reference dates, this property was vacant, and was vacant for some 20 odd years.
You did provide Marshall Swift cost on page 17. I have question about non-superstructure subtotal 2,330 square feet. What you talking about?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
On page 17, you provide a 2-tank by 26,417 gallons and 2 tanks for 13,209 gallons. But you provide also 2,330 square feet of what?
So if we go to page, I believe it's page 27.
So you provide
If we go to page 26, we have the full breakdown.
So you provide a full cost replacement of all improvements on this site, correct?
Correct.
So for improvements on pipings, it will be, we have to take together, it's our storage tank, plus 2 storage tank for 103,026, plus 54,025. It's smaller fuel tank and another smaller fuel tank. 54,025. Pipe, we use pipe. Our pipe only 4,670 square feet. Our information shows that all these 5 pipe units costed 520,000 square feet. how you came across so small amount? What is mistake here?
As far as I'm aware, there aren't any mistakes. I provided the information to Marshall and Swift. Punched in everything, and this is the value that we arrived at. I don't see any mistakes.
Because our system same by using City of Winnipeg Property Assessment Department in-house computer costing system that is based on the provincial cost manual. So your pipe, 8 units and 8 quantity, very low compared to cost approach. 520,000.
Okay.
You didn't provide any evidence cap rate support at 6.25%.
I'm sorry, was that a question?
Yes, you didn't provide any evidence supporting your 6.25% capitalization rate.
That's a question?
Yes. Yes or no?
I have provided support for the capitalization rate.
By analyzing only interest rate, correct?
No, based on third-party
Okay,
reports
equity.
and the city's own information as well.
Would you agree just brand new improvements with all piping system would have less should be capitalization rate should be much smaller because it's already improved, completely rebuilt?
No, I'm sorry. So I think we've established this was a redevelopment. It's not a brand new property. So I think we've established that. And then I think we've also established that what the range is as per third-party market reports, what the city's range is for capitalization rates for retail properties. And then we've also factored in the fact that, we're not dealing with a 3-4 unit strip mall. We're dealing with a gas station and all the environmental contamination and liability and market risks that are inherent with that type of asset.
Would you agree with just established that previous building was demolished, built a new car wash and new store and all piping system in brand new improvements right now?
So the store's not brand new. The store was redeveloped. It was, torn out, but it wasn't demolished. And I think we've established, yes, the car wash was torn down, a new car wash was built, a new canopy, new pumps, new tanks.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you. Mr. McPherson, have you any questions?
Yes, I do have a couple. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess first of all, we can start off with, I think you said Marshall and Swift, and I see CoreLogic Swift. Is that just a changeover in the name of the costing service?
Yeah, so it's still Marshall and Swift. I think CoreLogic is what they call like their online program. But it's Marshall and Swift.
Okay, thank you. And on page 26, you show your costing, and you said you conferred with them as well. Is there any adjustments that have to be made for like a locational or an area adjustment?
So the way it worked, like on the online system, you choose your location and then they factor in the area adjustment. So I punched in Winnipeg as being the area, and then my understanding is that this was all adjusted for Winnipeg.
Okay, that's as far as it adjusts is the city itself, not regions of the city.
As far as I'm aware, you can't change regions. I've played around with it a bit because we represent property owners all throughout Manitoba. And I'd have to play around with it a little bit more to see if you can, you know, if you could do Brandon, like if regionally like that. But as far as I was worth, like for Winnipeg, it's just one selection for Winnipeg. You can't, you know, choose south or north.
Okay, so, and I guess the premise there is it'd be the same cost no matter where you do it within the city.
That would be my
transportation costs. Okay, and you're talking about the risk on the cap rate. I think you were referring to on your page 13 and 15, where you showed 425 Osborne and 302 Archibald being vacant for decades. They used to be gas stations. Would you think it would be the same situation for an improvement that's located in a mall, like a regional shopping center, versus one that's just on a regional street?
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I think that, yeah, probably for this site specifically, you know, if in 20 years when the co-op and the lease is over, you know, I don't see them letting it sit vacant. But the cost of remediation, that is still going to be there. And I've really used those two case studies just to illustrate, you know, you would look at that and you'd say, hey, this is a decent location. Someone should put some kind of development here, but no one does, and it's because of how cost prohibitive it is.
Right.
But yeah, like being at a mall location, I can see them redeveloping it. I've mainly included those two case studies for illustrative purposes.
Okay, and remediation costs, you said that they're prohibitive. Do you know what they are?
Not off the top of my head. I've read through a couple of reports and I maybe should have included them, but they're expensive enough that you can't get a return. Like you can factor in, okay, it's going to cost us this, and we'll be able to get this in a rent. But then when you factor in, okay, we also have to add in these remediation costs, then it becomes cost prohibitive.
Okay, so it would impact the highest and best use of the property, but are there other uses that could be done? Is there development that could be done without remediating?
So there are developments that can be done without remediation. Those tend to be industrial developments. And the zoning for a site like this, you couldn't do anything industrial with a site like that. So generally, I can't think of any sort of development that would work, that would fit in with the zoning for that kind of an area. Like I can't see them putting in an industrial kind of servicing center there. It just wouldn't fit. It wouldn't be the highest and best use.
Okay, I thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Knight, questions?
Just want to talk about the site. So once the gas station is finished, the site normally sits empty for 20 years and then something else can be built. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that's what I found in looking at some gas stations. Like for the majority, I haven't yet been able to find an example of a gas station where there wasn't some significant period of time before it was redeveloped. So in looking at Archibald, as of the two reference dates, there was nothing there. Now someone has redeveloped that site, but it did sit for about 20, actually that one's quite close to 30 years. So I guess the point I'm illustrating is that the risk that you get with this type of an asset, you know, if you were to purchase something else retail, you're able to redevelop right away. You're not purchasing this risk as well. So certainly there are cases where a gas station site can be redeveloped, but it would have to be, you know, there would have to be something exceptional there.
Like there's two gas stations on Henderson Highway that, yes, they did sit empty for some long time, but now they both have been redeveloped. The tanks have been taken out, everything's redone. At Henderson and Linden and Henderson and Dunrobin, they've both been fixed.
Yeah, and so the investor who took that on, they also need to be compensated. You know, when they're thinking I'm going to purchase this, they also have to factor in I'm going to have several years where I'm not getting any income. So you're really going to need to get a premium return when you're operating it to justify. I know I'm going to have at least 5 years where I'm going to get no income, and I'm going to have to take on the cost of remediation and then redevelopment as well. So it's just, it adds to that level of risk, and the investors need to be compensated for taking on that extra risk.
Right,
And
right.
that's why I don't look at this property and say, well, I can just take, a median kind of capitalization rate for retail. This isn't your typical retail property.
Right, right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question with respect to the calculations that you have on your page 17, the comparison, particularly with respect to the Marshall and Swift breakdown that the city provided and the Marshall and Swift breakdown that you provided. I'll just wait till you're on that page. I'll direct my question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Leaving aside small differences that I'm not going to say are very material at the moment, the largest difference in your calculation and the city's calculation is the second from last entry on the cities, the fuel pump electrical 3 product. You can see that average condition, 8 quantity, 8 units, fuel products unit cost with the replacement cost new at $520,000, which is consistent 8 cubed. But yours, however, your electronic dispenser without pump comes in at $115,000 or roughly $400,000 less. My question is, you have input for 8 products or 8 units. The city appears to have allowed for 64 units, quantity 8 of 8 units. Can you explain the difference?
So when I went through the Marshall and Swift, the software, I arrived at this 582, and I thought, I wasn't expecting such a stark difference, which is why I reached out to Marshall and Swift. So that's why I reached out to them on, I think it's at page 27. I've got the email. So I kind of had the same question, like, have I done something incorrect here? And that's why I reached out to Marshall and Swift and went through it with them. And they were satisfied with the cost estimate as being accurate. I don't purport to be a costing expert. My area is more with the income approach to valuation, direct comparison approach to valuation. The cost approach is usually more done as a backup approach in support of the other two. So I never put a ton of weight on cost approach appraisal methodology. But I am satisfied that in speaking to Marshall and Swift that this has been done correctly.
Depending on the information that was provided to them, were they?
Yeah.
You made them aware that this was a gas station with presumably 8 pumps. I think was one of the, or maybe I'm taking that from Marshall Swift, but that's 8 pumps for the various products.
Yes. And I know the 8 to be correct, just based on the pump count from my inspection.
Yeah, and you and the city are in agreement with that. The difference is with the other multiplier of the 8, that the city has quantity 8, units 8, and you've just got the 1 units 8 without the quantity multiplier there. And that seems to be, well, other than the cost new, you're also $7,000 apart on the cost new with respect to that. But okay, that is something the panel will have to sort out.
Sorry, I just have a further question in regards to what you're asking now.
Okay.
And it might actually go to the city. So when it's saying 8 by 8, so 8 is quantity 8 units. So there's 64 pumps there?
Correct. And right now I find what mistake came from. You can see that 8 units for cost $583.81. Cost was took from Twins pump for 2 product. In our case, we have each pump 4 products from both sides. It's 8 product on 1 pump, on 1 station. So we have 64 dispensers.
So on this, okay, so now we go back to the applicant's thing. He's got twin pumps for 2 products.
Yes.
So he's got 8 units of 2 by 2, so that's 4.
But we have each station has 4 pumps from both sides. It's 64 dispenser. And cost of this pump with 8 dispenser completely different compared to twins pump for 2 product.
So
Is-
you're meaning, so just so I can understand, you're meaning because it's got unleaded, leaded, there's 4 different kinds of gas that can come out of each pump, and there's 2
From
pumps
both
together,
sides.
which makes it 8 units to pump out.
Yeah, we have 8 units with 8 product. We have 64 dispenser.
Okay,
And
so, okay, so
cost
that's
of
good.
one dispenser,
Thank you. Thank you very much. I understand that. Now,
Okay.
can I go back to the applicant?
Please.
So the applicant's showing that there's 8 units, 2 pumps and 2 products each unit. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, I'm just gonna, because I know on page 17, we've got the one breakdown, and then we have the other breakdown on page 27.
Okay. Let me just go to page 27 here. Okay, so there again, it says twin pumps for 2 products. So you're talking about 8 units of 4 products there.
Yes,
So you're saying there's 32 products where the city's saying there's 64 products.
yeah, and so like in my experience being there, they've got premium, I guess, with premium, regular. Not each of these pumps would have diesel though. You know, it's
Right.
usually 2 out of the 8 would probably have diesel, or maybe 4 out of the 8, but it wouldn't be all. They wouldn't all have diesel. Usually every other one would have diesel, or you'd have usually 2 out of the 8 would have diesel, so those ones would have extra.
Mhm.
But the other ones would just be your standard pumps.
Okay. Because I know there's premium, regular, and diesel at most pumps,
Yeah,
and they come leaded and unleaded. And then there's diesel, so it's 2 premium unleaded or premium rig. Okay, 2, 4, 5. All right, thank you. All right, I'll figure that out. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And I don't have anything following that. Ms. Shavel, have you any summary?
yes. Our job here today is to analyze the market evidence to determine the best conclusion of the market value. Agent apply a current lease for land of 135,000 with improvements of 2,330 square feet that give us estimate rent for $58 per square foot, and city apply around $11.86 for car wash and $47.78 for gas station and pump. Also for cost of pumping, the cost of replacement cost of the fuel equipment like Iceland shelter, tank, dispenser, piping. City applied 991,000 that include 64 pipes, dispenser. Agent apply only 24 dispenser for whole property. We have 3 type of gasoline and one diesel on each of 8 station. So based of evidence in my brief, all I ask him to confirm our assessment, 2024 assessment of $3,537,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Any summary, either Mr. Horsberg or Mr. Van Bruggen?
yes, please, just a brief summary. So I think we've seen here today now the city's assessment of the property and the lack of support for a capitalization rate. the assessor began her presentation by saying this was a brand new property, and then was made aware that the property isn't in fact brand new. So I'm not confident that the assessor is really even familiar with the property we're discussing today. I've been to the property, I've inspected the property. I believe I've made it clear that there's support for the capitalization rate that we've used. There's market support for the parameters that we've used to appraise this property. And ultimately the onus is on the assessor to prove that their value is correct and equitable. The value is not correct, it's not fair, it's not equitable. There isn't market support for it. The value that we've provided today, there's market support for it. And I hope I've made that clear to the board. So thank you very much. And Mr. Van Bergen, I'm not sure if you had a desire for summary as well.
Sorry, I'm just going to jump in very quickly here. Just a couple quick points. So as we discussed for the property, we know there's a lease in place for $135,000, which we've used in valuing the property. When we look at the evidence brought forward by the assessment department, we can take a look at the information they brought forward on page 20 of their submission of their brief. What we know is they haven't provided the areas of majority of for the majority of these properties. We don't see them. They haven't been included in their 44-page brief. We asked, there is clearly no information provided to support what areas they were using. Now, why does it matter? Well, it matters because of those areas, then they're using to support the rental rates. So again, how can we be confident that the assessed rental rates for these properties are reasonable when we don't have that information? M&P has provided you very clear information of what the lease was at the time, what the lease would be as of April 1st, 2021. Additionally, when we take a look, we know that this, again, the assessment department has valued this property using a capitalization rate from an office property. Again, I'll leave it up to the board to determine whether or not this is an office property. M&P's position that this property is very clearly a retail property, in our opinion, is very clearly a retail property. And that's where we see some differences on those caps. Finally, when it comes to the cost approach, M&P has been careful to provide all the support that we have to show where that information comes from and what the valuation date was. We know the valuation date that we're using is April 1st, 2021. We don't know what the date the assessment department is using because they haven't provided that. Again, we can see that on page 26, as well as page 28 of our brief, we've gone and done that extra step to follow up to make sure that we're valuing this correctly. So again, when we look at each one of those factors, it really is our position that when you look at the assessment department, the information provided by the assessment department, there's not a lot. They've got a lot of information, but there's not really a lot of support. Versus M&P, we've been very careful in how we value this. We provided all that information for the board for your references and referrals, and we do feel that that value is overassessed, and our requested value is reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Having heard the evidence, then we will conclude this matter and we will move on to the next matter. But before we do, can we take, it's 10:47 now. Can we come back at 10:55, please?
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
yeah.
with all due respect, I believe there's a preliminary issue with the other
on the next matter.
Is there not? And,
on the next matter, yes.
And we would probably have to recess at that time. So
yes, but I'm going to ask to do it now because there were questions and I'm not sure how long that will take. And rather than getting into the weeds, I would rather do that now. Thanks. Yes. So if we can come back at 10:55, please. Thank you. I'd like to call this meeting back to order, please. And if we can turn to number 2 on the list, that is the same property we just dealt with at 1216 Grant. However, the roll year is 2025 and the reference date will be April 1st, 2023. Ms. Schabel, I see as well that there is an application that the burden of proof be placed on the applicant for non-cooperation. If you could please introduce the property with the roll number and then move to your evidence with respect to the application for non-cooperation, please. Ms. Schabel, you're muted.
Thank you. File number 25-41, roll number 120-140-72100. We have the assessor request that the burden of proof be placed on applicant. for not cooperation, section 53, 3B of the Municipal Assessment Act, if reduction in assessment is ordered, that it follows section 54, 3.2 of Municipal Assessment Act. On page, let's open page 22 of my brief. We did send a letter on April 23, 2023, requested for property sale income expense information. On page 23, what we attached, we was asking for property income expenses questionnaire and tenants verification form. On page 23, we receive a letter back from a letter what we sent on page 26. Stephen. It's like I posted this letter 2 times. So we received envelope back, but no information provided inside the envelope. That's why we ask for information to be not cooperation.
That's your evidence, Ms. Schabel?
Correct.
Thank you. Mr. Horsberg, questions? Just on the application with respect to non-cooperation.
Yes, myself and Mr. Van Bruggen can speak to that. Wesley, do you want to go first, or should I?
Go for it, Carson, and then I'll just back lead him.
Yeah. Okay, so the corporate offices, they changed addresses and they moved addresses. They made the city aware of it. They've always been compliant. So if we turn to page 27 and 26. So starting on page 26, see 1 Adelaide Street East, Toronto. On page 27, 2720-181 Bay Street. So they made the city aware that they had changed addresses. If you're gonna move locations, you let the city know that you've changed locations, you've moved head offices. And then the city just went ahead and mailed it to the old address anyway. So I don't really see how it would be fair that the applicant now, the taxpayer now be penalized. They did everything they could to let the city know they've moved. And then the city mails it to the wrong address anyway, and now they're penalized as a result. I don't think that's why this section of the Municipal Assessment Act exists. Wesley, do you want to chime in at all?
Yeah, just a quick note. So if we look on page 25 of this submission, and again, we can see there's clearly a letter returned to sender that's outlined, moved, unknown, returned to sender. So clearly, it's and when we take a look in combination with the information that Mr. Horsborough provided, it's clear that this information did not get to the owner of the property. So again, it seems unreasonable to penalize them for something that they never received.
Thank you. I'm going to. That was the opportunity to ask Ms. Schabel questions with respect to that.
Sorry.
You have your evidence. I wasn't going to interrupt. We will simply apply that evidence to the next phase. I certainly appreciate it. But having heard all of that, Ms. Knight, have you any questions of Ms. Schabel?
Just who mentioned the assessment and taxation department letter that was sent out January 17th, 2025? Was that the assessor?
No, that was, I believe, Mr. Van Bruggen who talked.
Okay, then I have no questions at this time for her.
Okay. Mr. McPherson, any questions?
Yes, I do have a question. Thank you. On page 25, it shows the envelope with the return to sender. Is that just a regular mailing, or is that a registered letter that was sent?
It was regular mailer. It was returned back on April 21st, 2023, and we sent April 1st, 13. But it's a duty of the owner to provide new address, mailing address by, if you look on page 27, by January 17, 2025, finally we get new address. But
Right, but I'm sorry, but did you say this is registered letter that was sent out?
no, it was first letter returned back to us in 2023. In 2023, we still have old location.
And-
It's owner duty to provide new mailing address for us.
Right. Did the city send out a registered letter requesting the information?
I didn't find information about it.
Is that not the normal procedure? Is if they don't receive it, they send out?
We will send second letter if you know address. If it's returned to us, owner not exist. We wait until owner contact us about new mailing information. Only in 2025 we have new mailing information. So 2 years they have opportunity to contact to us. We provide necessary information. In all our model based on real information provided to us. We don't take any extra numbers. That's why it's municipal assessment act, like law, to provide information to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Schabel, you referenced the letter of the City of Winnipeg Assessment and Taxation Department at page 27, and you indicated that the address or the owners of that address didn't contact the city until January 17th, 2025.
Yes, yes.
The letter doesn't say that. The letter says that's when the rolls were assessed or the rolls were changed to that. Is there any evidence, or do you have a letter that indicates when that information was received? I mean, the city acted on it on January 7th, 2025, but prior to that, when was that information received?
Because in January 2025, we did a supplementary notice for 2024 in 2025, when we finally get address.
But you don't know when you got that address?
No, I don't have information in front of me.
Okay, thank you. Now, when
address.
Okay, when the letter, this is the on, and I'm looking at page 25 now, the envelope that, was the envelope returned empty or was it returned with that letter in it?
Return back, like return to the sender, return back to us, because this address not exist anymore.
That's not what he asked you.
Right, but the letter that
It's our letters came back.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. I don't have anything further. Now, we've heard your evidence, both Mr. Hosberg and Mr. Van Bruggen. Ms. Schabel, have you any questions of the applicants?
No questions.
Okay. Mr. McPherson.
Yeah, I'm going to ask the obvious question. Do you know when the City of Winnipeg was notified of the change in mailing address?
Sorry, is that for us, Mr. McPherson?
That's
Yes,
for you,
please.
yes.
Yeah.
No, unfortunately, we're not aware.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Ms. Knight, have you any questions?
Do you know when the address actually changed? Because he asked it when the city was notified. Do you know when the address actually changed?
No, again, we're not sure. We're
Okay,
not aware.
thank you. All right.
Okay, I don't have any questions. I think I've got a bit of an idea about this. So we're going to go in camera. We'll take a brief recess while we consider the application from the city, and we'll return in a minute or two, or when we've made our decision, and proceed from there. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll call this meeting back to order. Having heard the evidence and considered the matter, the panel is of the belief that the burden of proof will remain on the assessor, that the evidence of failure to comply does not satisfy the requirements under the Municipal Assessment Act. So, Ms. Schabel, would you please proceed with your evidence?
Yes, I know it's already posted, but we was notified in January 16, 2024 about new address.
Yeah, and if you'd like to apply the evidence where it overlaps from the last application to this application, we can take that as read, and we will certainly consider it in our deliberations if that will help expedite matters.
It's two different reference dates, two different.
Yes, where the evidence overlaps.
Okay.
But please proceed.
So we assess 2025 with reference day April 1st, 2023 at 4,029,000. On page 2nd through 6, I provide income expense or air photo of subject property. And if you look on page number 4, occupation happened. OC, its occupation permits was issued in 2023 and second 2024. So by a physical condition of January 1st, 2025, the subject property already full renovated and new construction happened. I provide same permits on page number 5. And also, if you look on page number 6, before renovation happened, it was just a gas station and pumping. And on same page, what happened? They added extra car wash in front of before adding new canopy. On page number 7, we provide market income for car wash. We use leasable area of 2,675 square feet with $12.07 per square foot. Give us potential rent $52,287. We did apply same 2% vacancy loss across the city or car wash to be consistent. 3% expenses not recoverable. Is shortfall $6 per square foot for occupation empty space. That is $6. It's a crunchy of number. Owner occupy property with clear income expense information. Expense information for maintenance this building provide to us. So our net operating income $30,371. Overall capitalization rate selected by a model 5.35% give us overall capitalization rate capitalized value $567,682. On same page, I presented car wash rent comparables. My first car wash on 4027 McPhillips. Built in 2004, rent for $21.67. Car wash on 395 Goulet, old building 1991, rent for $36.36. Car wash on 21 Lakewood building, rent for $24.38, and 1034 Beaver Hill Boulevard, car wash, rent for $15.39 for close to 6,000 square feet. Give us media on average $24.45. media $23.03, and average weight for all 30,169 square feet, $20.96. We apply $12.67 for car wash. It's very well supported and much lower than my comparables. On page number 8, we have estimation for a store, kiosk, and pump. Store 2,330 square feet leasable area. We apply $47.23. Give us a potential rent of $110,046. We apply vacancy loss 3%, expenses not recoverable 3%, and shortfall $6 per square foot. Give us net operating income $104,330. Overall capitalization rate for store 4.7%. Give us capitalized value $2,290,787. We did apply additional value, building value of pumping cost on of $1,241,000. This information on page number 9. We have two tanks for 30,209 gallons. Each replacement cost around $61,000. We have two tanks for 26,417 gallons. All replacement costs around $118,000. We have a shelter of 3,690 square feet. Give us replacement cost $363,000. And we have a fuel electrical pump, 8 quantity by 8 units. It's 864 fuel pump, each cost $8,126. That give us estimate replacement cost $520,000. So altogether give us $1,241,000. On page number 8, I provide gas pump and kiosk rent comparables. Kiosk with gas pump rent comparables, because if a kiosk without gas pump rent usually much less what presented in my comparables today. Our gas pump store or 705 Osborne, 1,000 square feet rent for $33.99. Kiosk on 4084 Inster Boulevard for 500 square feet rent for $80 per square foot. Kiosk on 80 Keewatin for 1,344 square feet rent for $93.75. Kiosk on 1070 Henderson, around 1.7 thousand square feet rented $51.22. And kiosk on McPhillips of 2.3 thousand square feet and $43.99. Give us average $62.59, media $51.22. In weight, average for 6,854 square foot, $58.50. Model generate $47.23. It's very well supported by my comparables. So on page number 9, summary of income value. We did assess potential rent $142,433. We apply vacancy loss 2%, 3% not recoverable expenses, shortfall $6 per square foot. Give us net operating income $134,701. Overall capitalization rate 4.83%. Give us capitalized value $2,787,469. Total adjustment of $1,241,000. It's for pumping equipment, pipes, and canopy. give us estimate market value of 4,029,000. On page 1011, capitalization rate, Municipal Assessment Act. On page 12, I presented air photos and rent of my rent comparables. So we can see on 75 Osman Husky rent for $43.99. On 4084 Inster, we have $80 per square foot. Gas pump on 80 kilowatting, storing gas pump $93.75 co-op. On page 15, another co-op and 1017 Henderson rent for $51.22. On page 16, another Canada has store of 2,330 square feet at $43.99. So it's our $47 well supported. Now we have car wash on page 17. We have car wash on 2,250 square feet at 4025 McPhillips. Lease show $21.67 per square foot. On page 18, car wash on 395 Bullet. Lease in 2020 showed $36.36 per square foot. On page 19, 21 Lakewood, rent around 4,000 square feet at $24.38 for car wash. It's more photo on page 20. On page 21, we have 1034 Beverly Boulevard, around 6,000 square feet rented $15.39 per square foot, according to lease in March 2022. So it's following by supplementary assessment notes on page 27, following by appeal from the agent. Based of evidence presented in my brief, we are asking to confirm 2025 assessed value of 4,029,000. I have a mistake. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Mr. Horsberg, have you any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions for Ms. Shavel. If I can bring the board and Ms. Shavel's attention to page 8 of your disclosure, and just let me know when you're at page 8. Okay, so if we're all on page 8, looking at the SKP store/kiosk with pump rent comparables, 80 Keewatin Street, the third on the list. Ms. Shavel, the start date and end date, both in 1905? Is that correct?
Oh, 2005, sorry, yeah, 2005.
Okay, so I mean, if we don't know for sure what the date is, I don't think we can really rely on this at all. And then if we now move to page 8.
You're on page 8 already.
Sorry, so if we now move to page 14. The top of page 14. Again.
Oh, yes,
This is
2005, it's wrong.
So, are you still relying on this as evidence?
Yes, it's evidence. Just I presented right Excel spreadsheet change my number from 2005 or 1905. Sorry, it's my mistake.
So it started in 2005 and ended in 2005?
I will look right away to make sure how long this lease was. Information. Lease started was in 2012 until 2026. I'm wrong. Yeah. We have 21,000.
So 2012, you said that one started?
Yes, started in 2012 until 2026. From the beginning, this building built in 2012 and will be in 2026 will be new lease negotiated.
Yeah, I'll do my best for the board not to sound like a broken record, and I'll try not to go over what we've already gone through quite a bit here. But Ms. Schagel, I asked this question with the previous disclosure, but it's worth asking a second time. Where in your disclosure can I find market evidence in support of your cap rate?
It's a model generated. It's all our cap rate, all building, all properties sell across the city, crunching by our system to come across this capitalization rate.
Okay, and a follow-up question. Previously you had said that you were using a office capitalization rate, is that correct?
Yeah, standalone, that's why I'm presenting these properties different, because it's standalone property, it's the allocated to office, all similar properties, part of neighborhood shopping mall will be retail properties.
Are you aware, can you speak to any market comparable office properties where you drive your vehicle in, you fuel up your vehicle, you get a car wash? Can you name an office property like that for me?
It's all car wash, all gas station and car wash. It's a capitalization rate model generated. In our case, we have brand new improvements. We have low risk for capitalization rate for investment. That's why it's capitalization rate less than 60% of office capitalization range.
Yeah, I'm going to ask one final question. The subject property, 1216 Grant Avenue, is the property a gas station?
Gas station, gas pump, and car wash.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Van Bergen, have you any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So a couple quick questions here. Again, to Mr. Horsborough's comment, we'll try not to retread over the same ground too much. If we can turn up, just flip to page 5. Just to confirm, the valuation date that we're looking at for this cycle is April 1st, 2023. Is that correct?
Correct. And this building was already occupation cost in 2023.
But if we look at the permit issue date, this would be July 27th, 2023. So after that valuation date, is that correct?
By July.
Sorry?
April 1st, 2023.
April 1st, sorry, April 1st, 2023. And when we take a look,
Physical condition, January 1st, 2025. On
right.
page number 4, we see that in 23-24 already occupation cost provided.
Right, and we won't disagree with that. But it's just
Occupation
more
permits issued, so it's already finished.
right, but more so when we're taking a look at the permit costs, that would have occurred after the valuation date. Is that correct?
That's why permits cost 6.5 million, and we appeal only 4 million based on market evidence 2023 car wash and stores.
Okay.
With pump.
If we could turn to page 7, please. And just let me know when you're there.
Yes.
So on page 7, we have 4 properties and you've got it identified as vehicle car wash rent comparables. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now let's flip to page 17, please. And this is the first one at 1425 McPhillips Street. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you would agree that this obviously this has a service station and gas pumps on it as well?
Correct. And they have, yes, because
Okay.
they have 2 different leases. If you look on page 16, service store in with pump rent for $43.99 of 2,330 square feet. On same property, we have a lease, separate lease for car wash on 2,230 square feet at $21.67.
But you would agree with me that the lease that you see on page 16 runs from May 1st, 2023 to April 30th, 2023, whereas the information that we see on page 17 runs from May 1st, 2022 to May 1st, 2027. So different time frames, right?
Yeah, it's completely 2 different leases. A lease for a store and lease for car wash. For store, lease will be renewed in after April 30, 2023. But it will be post-reference for me. That's why I didn't provide. By before reference day, the rent for $43.99 separate for for store and car wash size 2022 May rent for $21.67. 2 separate lease on same property.
Do you have any support for that?
Yes, it's my information. I'm on the
Okay.
roll. A physical check and com expense mailer provided to us.
Okay. Well, let's flip to next to page 18, 395 Gillette Street. So you would agree that if we take a look at the picture on the bottom of page 18, that there's a quick lube on this or a fast service bay on this as well?
They rent on separate leases, agree.
But we can see it's on the same property. Do we see anything
Same
to
property,
support
2
that?
different leases. Car wash on this lease for 1,155 square feet at $36.36. And we have separate lease for service garage. It's not part of valuation for today's subject property.
But we don't have anything we don't have anything within your 30 page to support that, do we?
I don't have to provide. I provide car wash lease.
Okay.
And I entered the off on November 2020 rent for $36.36 car wash.
If we could move to page 19, so we have 21 Lakewood Boulevard. Again, we can see here, and then if we flip to page 20, you'd agree that there's a service station and the gas station as well with this?
We have a lease, specific lease for gas station with store, and they lease for $24. No, we have a car wash for 3,896 square feet, lease for $24.38. I looking only lease for car wash in my comparables.
Right, but we can see that there's a gas station and
Yes,
fuel
and
pumps
they
in here.
have
So
separate lease, correct?
how do we know that there's a separate lease? Again, when we've taken a look
Because
at,
I am under oath and I presented information in my brief from income expenses mailer provided to us.
and if we flip to page 21, on page 21, 1034 Beaver Hill Boulevard, again, you would agree that there is what appears to be the gas station integrated into that car wash as well as the fuel pumps. So where's that rental rate coming from?
You can see that we have separate lease for car wash on 5,868 square feet, negotiated in March 2022 for $15.39. They have separate lease for gas bar and store.
Again, have you provided any support to support anything to support this?
I am under oath and I provide clean lease for car wash for this property.
Okay. And if we can turn back to page 8, please. And just let me know when you're there.
I'm here.
Okay. So here we have a store kiosk with pump rent comparables. and you're showing the rental rates here. Is that correct?
We have a store with gas pump because it's specific rate much higher than store without gas pump.
Okay. So if I'm taking a look here, 705 Osborne Street. So I'm reasonably confident in the hearing that we just had that you had indicated this is a pad site. So is this a pad site or is this a rental rate per square foot for this gas station?
And let's open page 12. We know that 1,000 square feet of store with gas bar rent for $43.99. It's market evidence negotiated end of 2019.
Right, but that's not my question. My question is, previously you had indicated that this was a pad lease. Is this a pad lease or is this a rent per square foot?
It can be both. Sometimes it's clean lease, sometimes it's pad lease. But our record showed what site of improvements on the property, so it's estimated.
Okay, so we don't know if the 1,000 square feet is actually in the rental rate. Is actually what's leased.
It's actual improvements of the site.
Okay. Same thing with 1484 Inkster. Again, is this a pad lease or is this an actual rent rate per square foot? Again, if this is a gas station, we've seen gas stations typically are pad lease. So where's this coming? Where's the 500 coming from?
500, it's a store, gas pump, and rent for $80 per square foot.
Okay. Again, if we take a look on the 1070 Henderson, in the previous hearing, you had indicated that this was a pad lease. And you had a different area on this one for the improvement. So again, is this a pad lease or is this an actual lease? I'm confused.
It's we know that a store of 1,680 square feet rent for $51.22.
Okay, because it's just that the area the area that you're using is different than what you had used in the previous hearing. So again, I'm just uncertain of where these numbers are coming from.
Because on this part, we have a store and we have gas pump.
Right. Okay. Okay. All right. I think that concludes my questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
At a moment, let's go back to 1070 Henderson. In 2024, 1017 Henderson have only 580 square feet of a store. In 2023, it's already 1,680 square feet. That's why it's two different rent for store. It was improvements. It was increase of size of store. That's why it's different number. If in 2014, 580 square feet was rent for $137.06. Right now, 1,680 square feet rent for $51.22.
Thank you. Ms. Knight, have you any questions?
No, sir.
Mr. McPherson?
Couple of quick ones, please. I know that you have not personally inspected the property, but do you have an inspection record that shows how many selections per pump are on the property?
We have 8 pumps. Each pump have a fourth dispenser for both sides. So 8 by 8, 64 dispenser.
And that shows on your inspection records?
Correct.
Thank you. And just clarification on this cap rate. When you refer to office, you're referring to it being, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that it's the office section of the property assessment department that's responsible for it?
Correct.
But it's actually a retail property that you've applied.
If it would be part of neighborhood, it would be responded by retail.
Okay. So you're not calling this an office property. You're just saying it's responsibility of the office section of the.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the clarification. That's all I had, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to confirm, Ms. Shable, the model has generated the capitalization rates for both the car wash and the store, right?
Correct. By analyzing similar type of properties.
Yes. And then they've been assigned a capitalization rate based on the office category, but they have different capitalization rates, right?
No, it's not assigned by specific office category. This model generates similar type of property. Was sell or rent, it's everything analyzing. It's a very complicated system, statistical system to explain.
Yes, because in your page 10, there is nothing with respect to gas stations. There is just retail or office, and you have selected, or the model has selected, a cap rate from the suburban, or you've indicated from the suburban A office category, right?
Yeah, I talk that it's office responsible.
Okay.
No any company real estate market reports show this capitalization rate. But model crunch existing sales number behind the scene in generate this model.
Thank you. Between 2021 and 2023, was there evidence of market cap rate compression, or did cap rates increase generally between 2021 and 2023?
In 2024, market evidence showed 5.32% overall, but in 2025 showed a much lower 4.83.
Okay, so that would be evidence of cap rate compression then.
Yes,
right?
correct.
Right. Okay.
And we see interest rate going down. It's
Yes,
same like capitalization rate.
Thank you. I don't have anything further. Mr. Horsberg, your evidence, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll do my best we've heard a lot of the arguments. I'll do my best not to repeat them. I won't go through the case studies a second time. But so I'll try to be as brief as I can. So again, 1216 Grant Avenue, now dealing with the 2025 supplementary assessment, the effective date, assessment being April 1st, 2023. If the board will follow me, starting on page 1 of the M&P disclosure, the assessed value is $4,029,000. M&P has valued the property, and we have determined a market value of $2,842,000. If the board will follow me through to page 5, or page 4 and page 5. On page 4, we have the assessment breakdown that we just saw of the previous disclosure. And on page 5, we have M&P's valuation of the property. So similar with the previous case, we are disputing the assessed income, the capitalization rate, and the adjustment that's been applied to the property. M&P has valued the property with income based on the lease that's in place, $140,000 per year. And then we've used a capitalization rate of 6.25%. And we've added an adjustment via the cost approach of $722,000 for the pumps and the underground tanks, as well as the overhead canopy. And that's how we arrive at $2,842,000. Now I'll speak to where these numbers came from with the rest of the report. So again, as we saw previously, pages 6 and 7, aerial photographs and exterior photographs of the property. Moving on to page 8, we have the rental rate. So now on page 8, I have included an excerpt from the rental roll provided by the landlord. So we can see the lease began on the 1st of January 2023. The monthly rent is for the whole site $11,666.67. Times that by 12 months, and that's how you arrive at $140,000. Again, just as with the previous one, I did speak to the subject property as a lease comparable, as well as the Petro-Canada by St. Vital Mall. If you were to look at the market and try to find two similar gas stations, this would be the most similar one, being at a shopping mall. Again, I spoke to it in the past, the whole issue of market rent versus the lease in place. This has already gone through the courts and been discussed with support for the actual lease that is being the more supportable one. Of course, if you have a contractual obligation, as I spoke to previously, you can't be assessed with a rent that you're not capable of achieving. Again, I spoke to a little bit about the theory, now moving on to page 9, about the theory behind capitalization rates, the different ways to extrapolate one. I won't go through all of that in detail. We can move on to page 11. You know, as I discussed in the past, with the past one, 3 different ways to come up with the capitalization rate. Ultimately, for this property, we've used third-party reports. Now, on page 11, you'll have to excuse a typo that was made. I should have said the table below highlights retail capitalization rates in Winnipeg as of April 1st, 2023, not 2021. So here we have Colliers, Cushman and Wakefield, their capitalization reports as of the reference period. So in the first table, we can see, despite the city argument that capitalization rates were contracting, in fact, capitalization rates grew in between the first quarter of 2021 and the first quarter of 2023. So just looking at this first table, we can see Colliers on the low end remained stable, but on the high end of their cap range, we saw increases, as well as with Cushman and Wakefield, both on the low and high end of the range, we saw that capitalization rates actually increased. They didn't decrease or contract. And then the 2 tables below here on page 11, directly from the cap rate report, Cushman, Wakefield, and Colliers as well, with the range being now 6 to 7.5%. Moving on to page 12, 13, I believe through 15. Again, I've spoken to this in the past. The case studies, I think we can skim through that. Spoken to these specialized use and the environmental risk contamination that comes with the asset type. So if we move now to page, to page 16, just a summary. Given the type of the asset and the risks that are inherent in it, as we've already spoken to, 6.25%, justifiable based on third-party market reports and the issues that we've already brought up with the specific nature of the property. So now on to page 17. Again, speaking to the cost value that's been applied to this property. So once again, for this property, it's included in the addenda, the full cost report. We spoke to the people at Marshall and Swift to get assistance in producing these values. So ultimately, we came up with $722,000 as compared to the city's value of $1.241 million. And I'll just reference the page. I believe it is page 26 in the addenda, if you want to see the full breakdown. It'll be similar to the one for our previous item on the docket. So then to conclude on page 18, again, the potential income that we're using of $140,000, that's the amount of the lease for the year. Capitalization rate 6.25%. fits right in with what the third-party market reports are saying for this type of property. And then the adjustment of 722,000. That's how we arrive at 2,842,000. And with that, I would respectfully ask the board to revise the assessment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, have you anything to add to that?
Just one point, Mr. Chair, just to make Mr. Horsburgh did a wonderful job. If we can flip to page 10. And just let everyone give a chance to get there.
Okay.
So in this presentation, we also took a look at what was happening with the government of Canada bond yields. So we looked at a 5, a 10, a 20, and a 30-year bond yield. As typically what we see is investments, particularly rate of return is going to fall. What the expected rate of return is and capitalization rates are going to fall what those bond yields are. I'm sure as everyone was aware, there have been some significant changes between 2021 and 2023 within the market. Anyone getting a mortgage now versus anyone getting a mortgage back in 2020 is going to note that there's a very different mortgage rate. And what we can see is we can actually see fairly significant increases on the bond rates across the board there. So if we take a look, what does this mean for investors? As we see borrowing costs, rates of return, expected rates of return increasing, we'd expect that to translate into what investors would be looking at for a reasonable rate of return on their asset as well. Again, it becomes one of those questions of, if you know you can get a GIC at 5%, why would you buy a fairly risk-free GIC at 5%? Why would you buy a risky asset with a rate of return for less than that? So again, I just wanted to point that out to the board in addition to everything else that Mr. Horsburgh provided. Thanks.
Thank you. Questions, Ms. Schabel?
Yes, please. On page number 10, you provide that huge difference between mortgage equity for April 1st, 2021 and April 1st, 2023. My question is why you apply 6.25% for 2024 assessment and 6.25% for 2025 assessment. It's two reference date, April 1st, 2021 and April 1st, 2023. You apply same capitalization rate, 6.25%. How you can explain it?
You bet. So we could have probably been more aggressive. Maybe we toyed with the idea of applying a 6.5 or 6 3/4 capitalization rate. Again, we feel that we'd probably be fairly well supported. That those would certainly be well supported by everything we see within the market. However, again, just in a sense, to be conservative in our valuation, we decided to keep that capitalization rate the same at 6 1/4, even though we do know there's been some significant changes in the overall market.
On page number 17. We're going straight to Twins pump for two products. We're going for replacement cost for pumping system. So you apply Twins pump for two product, 8 units. It gives us 5,700. You use electronic dispenser for pump 8 only for 143,000. So it's 150,000 for 24 dispenser only, correct?
Again, this was done in consultation with Marshall and Swift staff. So as far as I'm aware, this is correct.
It's for 24 pumping station. So 24 and we have 64. So you 150,000 should be multiplied by 3, correct? To correct your cost approach, because it's not twin pumps, it's 8 pumps with 8 dispenser, 64. So if we 150,000 for this dispenser for 24 multiplied by 3, it will be 64 dispenser, like subject property existing.
Well, Ms. Schabel, you haven't been to the property, you don't know that that's correct.
500,000, $500,000, correct?
As far as, like I said before, this was done in consultation with Marshall and Swift staff. As far as I'm aware, this is correct. I've been to the property, I've inspected the property, you have not.
But you showed twin pump for two products. You just use wrong category to to apply cost approach, correct?
Correct.
Done. So, by applying numbers, pump count, it will be 500,000 just for pump only dispenser. So your estimation of 700,000 too low. It's not correct. It will be very close over 1 million, like assessment from taxation department. Would you agree?
Well, just doing the math, on the corner of the paper, it would still be lower than your 1.24 million. And you haven't provided any support backing up that. I provided the full one-page breakdown on page, was it 26 or 27? I provided the full breakdown. You've provided no breakdown.
But we established you apply completely different pump count to came to right.
We've established that this was done in consultation with the experts at Marshall and Swift.
No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. McPherson, any questions?
Yeah, just clarification on that. You said you inspected the property. Did you do a count of how many selections there were per pump? Was that part of your inspection?
I don't remember off the top, like I didn't count them one by one when I was there. What I recall, and I am a full disclosure Red River Co-op. I'm a member. I don't know if I should have disclosed that at the beginning of the hearing, but I am a member. I've got my co-op card. What I do know is that not every single one of those pumps has a diesel pump, right? And that's typical across every gas station. Usually it's not every single one would have the diesel. So you're going to have usually the end ones have the diesel. So if we look at my photo on page 7. Here's what we can see. So we can see that you might have 3 different selections, but you only have the one physical pump. So you might have you're gonna have 2 different pumps, one pump for diesel and one pump for gasoline, but the selection is gonna be one of these pumps, you're gonna have the selection of premium, regular, unleaded, and then it's a separate pump for diesel. So that's how I make sense of it. I'm not confident that each one of these is going to have the diesel option. I don't think that makes sense. That's not what I've ever seen at a gas station where every single pump has that diesel option. You need a separate, holding tank for the diesel. So I would tend to think that maybe every other pump would probably have diesel. You probably have a total of 4 pumps that have that diesel option.
Would you agree that we have 4 tons?
You had your chance to ask questions, yeah.
Okay, so you're basing this on your knowledge of what's normal for gas stations, not the specific one. You can't say definitively.
No, not definitively, which is why I brought in Marshall and Swift. That's why we paid a monthly subscription so that we can access their talents when need be. And the man that I was corresponding with was confident that this was correct.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but does it not depend on the information that you're giving to Marshall and Swift in order to determine that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. To the best of my knowledge, this is accurate.
Okay, thank you. I don't want you to speculate any further. I just wondered if you had known. And just on your lease, was there a step up? Did it go from 135 to 140?
Yes.
So it was a step up.
I would have to double check. I would have to find the actual lease if it was a step up, if that was a new lease that was signed. I would have to double check.
Yeah, I think what you show here is it's still a 21 start date, is it not?
2023 start date.
Oh, is it? I'm sorry. What page was that on?
Page 8.
Page 8.
From the rent roll, it's the 2023 start date.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's very unclear on mine. So it is a 2023?
Yes.
So
Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah, there's the April, there's the January 1st, 2025, so there will be a step up in 2025. But yeah, start date April, or sorry, January.
I thank you. That answers my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Knight, any questions?
Just gonna go back to this twin pumps for 2 products. So is that 4 pumps on each side to be 8 pumps in total times 8 units?
That's the way I understood it.
So that's what this is saying. Twin pumps for 2 products would be 4 on one side, 4 on the other is 8 times 8.
Yeah, because you would you can select with one of the pumps, you can select, premium, regular, and then with the other one, that's just for diesel. So
Right.
each of these, when they would have the 2 pumps, but then the different selections. So I think maybe that's where people were kind of getting tripped up a little bit with the whole fuel selection, maybe.
Okay, so 2 times 2 is 4 times 8 is 32 times 723 then.
I need my calculator.
Well, sorry, I'm just trying to, I think your thing is done wrong. So I think, I don't know, because you're saying there's 2 pumps for 2 products, so that's 4 products that can come out times 8 units. So that's 32 products in total that can come out at a cost of $723.83 per unit. So 32 times 8 would be that number.
Right, yeah, I think that's correct.
So the cost would be more than $5,791.
But then when we add in the electronic pump dispenser, I think that because we're factoring both of those things in. Because we have the twin pumps, but then also the electric dispenser.
Yeah, I think there's something wrong in your calculation and I don't know how to explain it. I think you're missing the fact that you can get 4 products out of one side, 4 products out of the other side, which is 8. There's 8 units times 8 products is 64 products times your cost.
Right, okay.
So if your cost is 17,000 plus 700, that should be multiplied not just by 8.
Can I have 2 minutes to just run some numbers? Or?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so at this point.
No? Okay.
Well, I have another hearing, and so does Ms. Shable at 1 o'clock. We've spent a lot of time
Okay.
on this. It will be something we'll have to deliberate on.
Okay.
Mr. Van Bruggen has something.
Sorry, just to jump in real quick here. So I apologize. So really what we're looking at is the difference is it sounds like it's double. So the assessment department has assessed double the amount we have. So we've got 2 pumps for each one of the sides. So we're looking at 32 versus the assessment department that's looking at 64 is really where the difference of this is going to lie. So we're based on that information. For this particular year, we're calculating a value of $721,755. If we were to double the number of fuel pumps and dispensers as per the board, we do have the numbers there. I ran the quick numbers, and we'd be looking at if we were to adjust that to 64, we'd be looking at a total Marshall Swift cost of $871,347. So that's basically taking the 2 pumps and 2 fuel dispensers that we have, just doubling that. That takes us to $871,347, just to provide some clarity for the board there. And I think part of where we're getting confused is the fact that we're using the 2, the assessment department's using the 3. That's where some of this confusion is coming into place. We did touch base with Marshall Swift. We do feel that valuation is reasonable, but I am providing that board those numbers to the board.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't have any questions. Ms. Shable, any summary?
Yes. Our job here today is analyze the market evidence and determine the best conclusion of market value. Assessment department assess car wash and store on separate rate based very well supported by my evidence of market condition April 1st, 2023. Regard additional adjustment cost for gas pump, assessment department used 64 fuel pump for $8,126.22 each from Master Swift. Versus agent, he used 2 pump, 2 Spencer for $5,791. So it's completely a wrong choice of cost approach, because it's a fuel pump electrical free plus product. So it will be completely changed cost approach for pumping station. Plus we assess for shelter or carport of 3,619 square feet that not estimated and agent brief, because they took separate cost of building improvements of store and shelter out of this cost. So based on evidence presented in my brief, the subject property 2025 assessment with reference date April 1st, 2023, $4,029,000 should be confirmed. That's completely less. That actual cost to build this improvement, $6.5 million. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will allow either Mr. Van Bruggen or Mr. Horsburgh to make a summary. Who would like to make the summary?
Who's that? So in summary, we've discussed this property. We know what the issues are. Main issue with this property is the capitalization rate and the way the city views the asset. There must be a fundamental issue with the model if it's looking at gas stations and then applying an office capitalization rate. It makes no sense. Here you have the data and all the transparency we can give as to how we came to our value. I hope that we've made it very clear that gas stations are a unique type of retail property. Ultimately, the onus is on the assessment department to provide the data to support their assessment. The assessment department has not provided any data supporting their capitalization rate. I feel we've made the case here today that this property has been overassessed, and largely because of the capitalization rate. And I thank the board for their time today.
Thank you very much. And having heard the evidence, we will conclude this matter. You'll receive our decision in short order, gentleman and lady. Now, thank you very much. That concludes the docket today. We will adjourn this hearing, but thank you very much, Ms. Schabel, Mr. Horsburgh, and Mr. Van Bruggen for your time and your in-depth presentations.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Thank you, panel members. Appreciate it. Your time. Have a great day.